Welcome back to the Daily Dean. So, don't give in to racist heuristics. And when you use cognitive biases, you make your teachers cryuses. That's the little riffs that I've been thinking about. Those I obviously improvise those. But basically the same sentiment. You may be asking, what are heuristics and biases? I'm so glad you asked. Now let me elaborate. When we hear the word bias, you may think about it in terms of, I've only actually heard about it in terms of like K-pop. But biases, you may be thinking like, oh dude, you're just biased, don't listen to them, or yeah, I'm not going to listen to you because you're biased. Biases have that same sentiment. Basically, it's one way to think, like a tendency to think in one way. And heuristics are kind of in the similar sentiment. Basically, shortcut of thinking. If you're studying this is how I remember it. Heuristics are rules of thumbs. You have to know about algorithms. Let's talk about passwords. Passwords are a great way of remembering it in terms of psychology. If you have a password that you forgot and you're trying to think about what it is, you can go through every single character on your keyboard and type it in one at a time and try every combination, and after thousands of attempts, you're going to find it, right? That is an algorithm that gives you a definitive answer to a problem and solution, a definitive solution. And heuristics are just general rules of thumbs to guide you to that solution. So imagine instead of going through every single character on the keyboard, instead you think about things that mean a lot to you that you might have used as your password in the past. Previous passwords that you used on other accounts. Your favorite dog, or your first pet's name, or the day you were born, or the date you were born. Those are heuristics that lead you to finding your password. And biases are not heuristics. Heuristics, like the availability heuristic, might cause you to believe in racist stereotypes, or just stereotypes in general, or the representative heuristic that might lead you to be sexist. One example in my textbook is if you've never seen a woman CEO for your job position and you're hiring somebody to be that CEO or be your apprentice, you may not think that, Lauren, who is, the next best candidate, would be a fitting person because you've never seen that, you've never seen a woman be in that position. And you may have fallen ploy to a heuristic, a shortcut in thinking that immediately allows you to think, okay, who is my best candidate? Because if we were totally rational people, we would always be following the most rational, solutions to our circumstances. This is where biases also come to play. Loss aversion. That's a word you may hear tossed around in psychology. Basically means that we have big trouble dealing with losses and trouble and gains and wins. And one way to think about it is in points, right? Imagine would you rather gain 10 points in a video game or lose 10 points in a video game? The chances are you're going to think, and the chances of losing something, risking loss, is going to be more influential on your decision-making process than winning something. Say you are risking your favorite mug in order to gain a super high-tech, future 2033 mug, right? The chance of winning that high futuristic mug might not be as influential in choosing whether or not you want to, make that decision if you're risking something. This explains something called the sunk cost fallacy, another bias that you can read up on that I'm going to summarize. Imagine you've been in a 2-year relationship, 2-year degree, 2-year program, whatever, and you've sunk in thousands of dollars, time, resources, and effort and energy into that program or that relationship or that degree, and you may be thinking, wow, I don't like this. I want out. I don't want to do anything. I don't want anything to do with this anymore. You may be thinking, wow, maybe I should totally quit everything. But because you spent so much time and effort and money on this one, aspect of your life, you may be inclined to think, forget it. I'll just power through it. I'll just do everything I can and I'll get through it. But if we are totally rational creatures, we would not spend any more time in that position because we've already lost so much. We would want to minimize our long-term losses and maximize our long-term gains. And in the long term, do you really think you're going to be enjoying that job or that relationship if it's going to be costing you more and it's going to be, if you're risking putting in all that time with no guaranteed win? It does not make rational sense, no logical sense to be powering through something if you can just, recede back and cut your losses. That's the trouble with loss aversion and the sunk cost fallacy. You've already sunk in so much into this ship, why not just go down with it or try your hardest? Now, that finally, this is one of my favorite actually, the representative and availability heuristic. Those are two kind of similar ones. The availability heuristic is related to car accidents and crashes and whatnot. Imagine that you are considering flying on a plane or driving on a car. You may be thinking, wow, I hear a lot about plane crashes in the, news and whatever. You may be thinking, wow, maybe I shouldn't take a plane, I should drive. But chances are, you're more likely to have an accident in a car than you are in a plane, per distance traveled or whatever. And it's interesting that because you hear more about plane crashes than you do car crashes, it's actually more available in your head to recall, which results in you thinking, wow, okay, I'm never going in a plane because I hear all about these crashes in Malaysian Fleet 303, whatever it was. And so the availability heuristic is how easily you can recall information that influences your decision-making process. Once again, that's a shortcut to thinking. And that is basically everything I have to share with you about heuristics and biases. And some more reading if you want to. Look up changing the narrative and confirmation bias. Those are both interesting things, and I'll leave you some resources if you're interested in that to look further into it. That's all, so bye-bye.